Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Pop de Teacher tonight. I'm Teacher Fabi Montanari, and I'm here today to talk to you about the best way to learn business English and business in parentheses. Okay, so you are very welcome here. I'm really happy to have you all here tonight for this great talk. For this another great talk. And if it's your first time here, welcome. But if you have been here for other times, welcome too. And let's talk about this. If you can hear me well, just let me know if you have problems with sounds. Okay, so people are joining us. I have to tell you that this is part of the warm up period for our main classes of Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho. Uh, Starting next Sunday, we are going to have a sequence of 4 classes, some taped, some live classes, for you to understand the way for you to speak English at work confidently and fluently. Okay, so if you haven't subscribed to this event yet, you can join me on the with the by the link in bio if you're watching on Instagram, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can use the link in the description of the video. Okay, just go there. Make sure you register um, for the free event, and all the participants in the free event will have special access to the program, to the annual program, which is called Method 8WI. Okay, and I'm going to explain everything that you need. You have this opportunity to join me on this program once you are participating of these classes. All right. So today, what I decided to bring here to you is this: what's the best way to learn business English? Okay, and business I put in parentheses if you have seen that, if you noticed, because the best way to learn English. These tips apply for everything, but especially for business. And people sometimes they ask me, teacher, you teach only business English, or you teach other kinds of English? Okay, once I'm a teacher, I can teach everything. But why do I decide to talk about business English, English for corporate reasons? It's just because I have this background, I have this experience of having worked for a multinational company in global projects. And what's the difference between like speaking English in general and speaking English for corporate reasons? Because if you're thinking of speaking English for a trip, you are going to take some days off and you are planning to go to Disney, to Orlando with your family or friends and spend some time there. Okay, even if you, even though many people come to me saying, teacher, I need to speak English because I have this vacation plans to go to the United States or to Europe or wherever. Uh, Even if you don't speak English really well, when you are traveling and you make a mistake, it's going to be fine in the end. But if you make a mistake in a meeting, it's not going to be fine. It's going to be terrible for you, for your leaders, for your team. You may lose your job. You may cause the company to lose a contract because you had problems to communicate in English. So this kind of communication, in my view, and if I have to choose, is a lot more urgent, and it makes a lot more difference in your everyday life than traveling English for traveling reasons. Okay, we can prepare students for that too. But business English is a lot more than only knowing the grammar, knowing vocabulary. It's more related to being able to communicate. And once you can communicate in English, your life gets easier. So communication in English is a secret. I don't want you to have more English classes. unless these English classes are helping you get closer to your objective, to your objective, your goal, which is speaking speaking English fluently and confidently, or in other words, communicating in English. Okay? So this is the point here, and this is what I want to bring to you. So when we say about the best way to learn business English, we start by not following the logical rules that we have of starting class one, and we're going to see class one, level one, basic English, countries and nationalities. I'm sure all of you have been there. All of you that have started studying English in a moment in your lives, you have had these classes, countries and nationalities. And then what do we teach behind this topic? Verb to be. Affirmative sentences of verb to be. Okay, it's a way to show you the what you need to learn. But it won't help you at all if you can use all the grammar structures, all the most beautiful vocabulary, if you don't have the timing to communicate your ideas. So this is the point behind it. So when I say, oh, I help students get prepared for communicating in English, it's more like that. Having this guided practice. I'm not going to tell you ever to study everything about English. What's more urgent for you now? Maybe verb to be is okay for you. Maybe you need some like conditional sentences, another grammar point. You don't need to know about the names of the grammar points. I need to know as a teacher. You don't need that. But you need to understand that what will make you communicate. We have just started, Ju. I have a question here. Teacher, what time did you start this class? I started 5 minutes ago. 7 minutes, 33 seconds ago, according to the live on Instagram. But I started both at the same time. So this is the point, okay? How can you help yourself without having more English classes? About that, I have some lists here. And what do we have here? When we say about at work, vocabulary at work, you have what is more common in your area. I don't know if you are a lawyer, or if you are an IT analyst, a project manager. You have some vocabulary in English related to your area. Maybe I don't know all this vocabulary. But you know, even though you can't communicate, but you can recognize and understand some words, technical words from your area. So the starting point here is what you already know. My suggestion here, and this is a practical class, okay? Take notes of that. First point, make a list of all the essential vocabulary you know about your area. If you're a lawyer, what are the law terms that you usually talk about? So make a list. If you're an engineer and you're working with project management, what are the most common vocabulary that come to your life every day? So make a list of that, right? And together with this list of essential vocabulary, you can make a list of keywords. You can make a list of the names of the tasks you have to develop in a routine. I don't know if it's daily or weekly or monthly. Can you describe these events in this way? Can you describe these facts? Don't worry now, in this moment, when you're doing this task, when you're doing this exercise, don't worry about making full sentences. Just worry about making bullet points. You know, bullet points? Like topics. So make a list. If you, starting from today, let's make it more concrete and more feasible. You know, feasible, plausível, feasible. Let's make it more feasible. Think of your day today and the things you have to do tomorrow and the other day, Wednesday, and so on. Make a list. If you had summarize to me everything that you did today in topics, what did you do today? Do you know how to say that in English? Just start by that. Oh, teacher, it's too easy. Trust me, make a list of that in English with as many details as possible. Like many, this was just something silly. Maybe even if you consider silly, but imagine you have a pencil and you need to, how do you say this? This event here. How do you imagine? Here, I have one here. If you can see, look, I have no, I can write with it. So what do I need to do with this pencil? I need to sharpen it. But once okay, I don't know how to say that in English. Imagine if you have to say, oh, how can I say this in English? I have no idea. This is not really related to your area, but just because you are forcing yourself to learn how to say that, you're going to start thinking in English. So if you don't know how to say that, you need to sharpen. And I have no pencil sharpener here, but you need to sharpen your pencil, okay? But my pencil sharpener, probably my kids got it, and I have none here now, but that's what you have to do in order to use your pencil to write. So this is one task. Make a list of tasks and essential things that you did today or you're going to do tomorrow. This is one point, a very good starting point. And you don't need extra books or grammar or anything else. Okay? Let me see some questions here. Many people saying good evening. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to hear, to be here with you. Marcelo Sabir, Fabio, would you send us a guide to appointment to meetings on business? You have all extra materials during Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho. You're going to have an extra material, a PDF, a guide, a basic guide for presentations. You're going to receive it in class. So make sure you're registered because then we can send it to you and send instructions in the right moment for you to download these files, okay? What else do we have here? I have a huge problem when I need to speak English. Yes. Marcelo said here, okay, it means that I'm purchasing, so I must do one list with keywords like supply, quotation, amount. Yes, that's it. You do it, this vocabulary and tasks. After you do that, how well can you explain this? Imagine I have just arrived in your area. We are going to work together and you need to explain this to me. Would you be able? How comfortable would you be explaining this to me? So this is a very good starting point. I had, some time ago, I taught a student, a lawyer. She had moved from Brazil to Canada. She was living in Canada by the time, I'm not sure now, 1 year and a half ago. And she needed to improve her communication skills because she was having some situations. She was the head of the department in English, and so she needed to communicate really well. And then she came to me with a list of all these law terms that she worked with cybersecurity. So she came with a list of all these And then all our classes, we were going further on this, the way she could explain things. And this is a miracle for everybody. So do that, okay? And you are going to see the difference in that. Okay. What else? We have some questions here. I have a difficult to speak. That's okay. We will come to that. Speaking is a key point, and I'll talk about this to you. My problem is my job. In my job is to understand people from other cultures. My boss is German, and it's so difficult to understand them. Yes, this is the interference of the mother language. So two topics here we need to talk about: this problem about speaking, and this problem about understanding foreign speakers. And we'll come back to that later. Okay, just let me finish what I'm covering here, so that you don't get lost in what I have prepared. So make a list. What have we talked about so far? Make a list of essential vocabulary related to your area, keywords, tasks you have to do, and try to define them in English. Check, look at the paper or look at the computer, and see how well you can explain it in English. And where's your limitation? Okay. If you have vocabulary limitation, what will help you? Looking for the definitions of these in a monolingual dictionary, which means you are not going to look for translations in an English-Portuguese dictionary. You are not going to Google it if you really want to learn English. You are not going to Google it. It's easy, it's tempting. You would love to have the translation in a minute. But if you want to improve your communication skills in English, unless we have a machine that we talk in Portuguese and the other side speaks in English, we use a microphone and I speak in Portuguese and the listener listens in English. Unless you have that, maybe we will have. But if by yourself, if you want to speak English, avoid looking for the translation at first. Looking for the translation of the word is the last thing you are going to do in the learning process. Why? Because doing that would be it's tempting and it's easier, but it means that you are not going to force your brain to speak English, really speak English. Okay? When you look for the definitions, you are learning more words, and you're forcing your brain to think about it. So in this sequence, and I do that, and I say that to you as an interpreter and translator. I sometimes translate documents for foreigner companies. Last time I had this service, it was a company from Ireland, and they had a client here in Brazil, and they needed help to participate in the meetings with them. They were online. They were developing a software for a Brazilian company, and I was supposed to participate in these meetings and translate all the guide, all the manual to operate the software. So they were going to send the software in English, and I needed the guide to translate the manual for them to use that. And even in that situation, I looked for the definition in English so that I could find the best word in Portuguese. Only after I have done this sequence, monolingual dictionary, some word reference in English, if possible, and then, if necessary, I close my learning process using a translation, a simple translation. But if you go to the simple translation at first, you are always going to be, it will always be going to be difficult for you to speak English. Don't do that. Okay? And with this, we come to the third point of my list. The third point is read articles and documents of your area in English. Follow pages related to your area in English. Some influencers online influencers, some channels, YouTube channels, TED Talks about your area in English. Take notes of vocabulary. And if there is a new word there that you don't know, look for them in English. Monolingual dictionary first. Only if you don't understand the definition is that you're going to look for a translation, not the opposite. Okay? Another thing that I love is get surrounded by devices in English. And I want you to be honest here. Now, do you? Is your mobile, your smartphone, in Portuguese or in English when you open it? Is your tablet, your iPad in English or Portuguese? Your computer in English or Portuguese? Your Netflix. And when I say your Netflix, for example, or any other streaming services that you may have, it's not watching the movie in English. It's going to the setup when you open the screen, when you open the app on your smart TV, and then you go to the setup and you're going to read the plot of the stories in English, the names of the movies in English. So every time, everywhere in your house that you look around your house, you must be surrounded by English speaking. Oh, teacher, but I'm the only English speaker at home. Nobody in my family speaks English. Help everybody speak English. I remember people tend to resist to that, but if you really feel like that, for example, here at home, I have no resistance. Okay, I speak English. My husband works and speaks English, so it's no problem. But my kids tended to resist at first. Oh, I don't want to watch this cartoon in English. Once they started to realize they had no option, they started, for them it's normal to watch movies and cartoons in English. Another thing, Waze. Not only your mobile is in English, but for example, Waze. If you have iPhone and you're talking to Siri, you have to talk to her in English. If you're talking to Alexa, talk to her in English. All of these get surrounded by it. It has never been easier for us to be surrounded by English language. I remember in my teens when I was speaking English, the brand new TV had tecla SAP. So the maximum I could get close to listening to English in my everyday routine was when my parents bought a new TV with this possibility, tecla SAP, and I loved it. It was the closer I could get to that. But now we have this option. We can go to the setup of our smartphone and put it in English. We can do that. You see? So do that. Waze, for example. When we start listening to Waze in English, we get used to that. And for example, the other day I got an Uber. Of course, the Uber was using the Waze in Portuguese. For me, it was weird, but my kid said, "Mom, it's so weird, this Waze." I said, yes. Now they know that, for example, buraco à frente, buraco na via. I don't know how Waze says in Portuguese, but in English it's pothole ahead. Pothole ahead. And it comes on the screen of my car. You know, those. And now my kids know pothole. Turn left, turn right, all these directions. Okay? Radar semafórico reportado à frente, it's traffic light reported ahead. So they know that, they learn that, they repeat that. And if you really want to speak English, why haven't you started doing that so far? Easy. Okay? So then you don't need subtitles in English. Marcelo said here he already tried to use Teams meetings with subtitles in English, but it's not good. I don't think it is really. I have never done that. Okay, so get surrounded by devices in English. Do that. I was talking about this, like, okay, here in my house, I say I'm the boss, I make the rules. I'm the mother, I make the rules here. So they try to resist. But I remember in the beginning of this year, we were we rented a house for the whole family to spend the new year. So we were like not only my family, we had some uncles, cousins all together. We were in almost 20 people to spend the holidays in the beach. And there was this possibility to open Netflix on TV. And then I opened mine. I was there, I was with my mobile, so I opened my Netflix on the smart TV from the house we rented in the beach. And of course, it came in English. And it was so fun to see everybody's face. So my uncle came and he got the room. He doesn't speak English. He's in his 60s. And said, "What's happening to this Netflix? I can't read anything." And then I said, "Uncle, it's English." "But why is that in English?" "Because it's mine." "Ah, come on, Fabi. We're going to put it in Portuguese." "No, you won't. It's my Netflix. If you want to unlog from my Netflix and put yours, then it's okay. My Netflix will be in English." 5 minutes of like resistance. After that, everybody was watching Netflix in English. So trust me, go there, do that. Okay. And then you read about the movies in English, you read everything. And then, okay, you are being touched with English all the time, not only during your classes, not only during your meetings. Okay. I have covered. So let's I have covered all the points. Let's just review, and then I will answer your questions. There are many questions here, and I will answer them. 5 topics here for you to learn, the best way for you to learn English or business English. Make a list of essential vocabulary, essential keywords, the main procedures of your area, the main tasks you have to do. Make a list and see how well you can do that. And if you don't do, look for it. Yeah, I don't know how to say apontar o lápis in English. This is part of your business. So then you have the opportunity to identify that you don't know how to say that and look for the best way for you to refer to it. Okay? Read articles and documents in English. Follow channels on YouTube or on Instagram or on LinkedIn about this. Watch TED Talks. You know TED Talks? I love it. It's really helpful. And get surrounded by devices in English. These were the 5 topics here. Now, answering the questions, let me come back here. Difficult to speak. And why is that? There is a reason, and I will explain in details during Semana do Inglês para Trabalho. But basically, speaking is an active skill that you need to develop. What do I mean by active skill? When we are reading in English, almost 100% of people think that reading in English is a lot easier than speaking English. And why is that? Because reading, the text is there. You have the text there. Somebody wrote to you. You don't need. It doesn't take a lot of effort for you to think of it. You just read. You receive the information. But when you have to speak, you need to find the words, choose the correct structure, the correct sequence for you to bring the information to your audience, to your listener. So in this case, a lot more difficult. Think with me. What is easier? Watching a movie, and now tonight, I know we are going to Netflix and change the setup and use it in English. And what is it easier for you? To watch one of your favorite episodes from your favorite TV shows, watch this episode tonight, or prepare the episode? Think of the production of this episode. To write all the dialogues, prepare all the scenario, think of the scenes, shot them, edit them, and put them on the streaming service. What is easier? To watch because you're receiving the information, or to produce it? Exactly the same happens when we're speaking. When we are speaking, we need to produce. It's our production. And that's why in my method, I have like the production moment is really important, with guidance, with feedback. Because You need to produce, you need to communicate your idea, but you need to understand if this idea was clear or if it wasn't. And if it wasn't, how you're going to work on it. Okay, so this is important, and you're going to understand a little bit more during Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho. Okay. Next question here is my problem is to understand my boss from Germany. When we talk about different accents, all of us, we have a reference. And that's why I say about the phonetics reference. Because, for example, why is it easier for most of us to understand other Brazilian people speaking? Because we have the same reference, the same phonetic reference. And for example, German, maybe, I don't know your boss, Ju, but maybe your boss has a very strong German accent and his English may be really poor. So the problem probably is not you if this is a scenario. Or he speaks with a very strong German accent with poor English, and then this is the mess made. But foreigner speakers of German tend to speak slower than natural speakers, than native speakers. If you and as your boss is German, he's using English as lingua franca. Okay, it means that we use it for international communication. What you have to have in your mind, you don't need to be perfect when speaking English. You just need to be clear and make your communication effective, even though it's not grammatically correct. Of course, it doesn't mean that, okay, the teacher said I can write everything wrong. I can speak everything wrong and it's going to be okay. No. If the best that you can do today is make a sentence in a wrong way, but your idea was communicated, then point for you. The problem is that if you spend 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months with the same mistakes, it means that you're not looking forward to improving your communication. And imagine this scenario. We have 2 engineers applying for the same position or for the same promotion at work. 2 engineers, they came from the same university, they have the same experience. Okay, hypothetical situation. They had the same background, same experience. Technically, they are the same, in the same level. Which one is going to have this position? Probably the one who has the best English. But now the same situation. We have 2 engineers. One is very technically he's very experienced, a lot of experience, but his English is really poor. He can't communicate. The other is not so experienced, doesn't know many of the things that this other engineer here knows, but communicates really well in English, even if the communication is kind of not so good. But he can communicate, he can be heard. Which one is going to have the promotion to be the leader in the team? Probably this one. I heard from a student of mine, he's a director in a multinational company, in an American multinational company. And once I heard him saying, said, teacher, sometimes I have very good people in my team working for me. They really understand about Excel. They are very careful about the data they provide to the team, but they can't speak English. So imagine we are working a global project. All the leadership is American, or they are from another country. The meeting is going to be held in English, and he doesn't communicate really well in English. I can't promote him to the as a supervisor, because in this case I will need to go to the meeting with him. And if I'm having a supervisor in my team or a manager in my team, I need them to solve the problems by themselves. If I have to go with him to the meeting because he doesn't communicate really well in English, I don't need him. As simple as that. Does it make sense? Does it make sense for you? So this is the point. Let's work on your communication in English. And then later, you work on improving your communication, improving your grammar skills, your vocabulary. And this is a problem. Speaking problems to speak is because you probably have many loose points. Lose as soltos. I'm going to explain in Portuguese just to make sure everybody understands. Todo mundo que chega para mim e fala que tem problema de speaking, é porque o speaking ele é a última etapa do processo de você se desenvolver. O speaking, ele tende a ser muito mais fraco, porque você precisa produzir. Então, às vezes você não tem toda a base necessária para você poder produzir aquela fala. Às vezes você não tem certeza de qual caminho que você precisa seguir ali. E você precisa buscar todos os recursos que você já tem aí de background na sua cabeça. Tá? Então, o problema do speaking é esse. Mas entendam que essa é a última ponta. A gente não tem como falar se não tiver um background. O speaking, se a gente pensar numa linha de produção, e eu faço muita analogia com linha de produção, porque eu vim de um processo né, do início da minha carreira, trabalhando numa montadora de veículos. Então era assim, a gente precisava, eu trabalhava na área de supply chain, cuidando de logística inbound, que era recebimento de peças, para que lá fosse feita lá a magia, e no final da linha de produção saísse um carro montado, prontinho para ir para a concessionária. Então, qual que é esse processo? É o input e o output. Então, a minha área, a gente trabalhava no input, de receber as peças, ter certeza que estava ali, né, tudo aquilo que significa receber uma peça, tudo que envolve isso, para depois poder ter o output. Qual que era o output na linha de produção? Entregar um carro pronto. No processo de learning e speaking English, o que é o input? É vocabulary basis, grammar, vocabulary basis and grammar, com a prática, a linha de produção é a prática guiada para que, no final da linha de produção, saia o seu speaking. Muitas vezes você está tentando fazer o speaking sem ter o início. Pensa comigo, seria possível ter um carro no final da linha se não tivesse peça lá no começo? Esse era o maior pavor, inclusive, da nossa área. Deixar um carro não ser montado, né, ter um problema, que esse era a maior métrica que a gente tinha ali, a gente era cobrado por isso. Imagina por uma falha do nosso trabalho, não ter um input no tempo certo, a peça não chegou, e por conta disso a linha parou. E o que está acontecendo aí? A linha para, muitas vezes, porque você não teve o output adequado, no momento certo. Então, as aulas da Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho, elas são justamente para isso, para você entender como você vai equilibrar tudo isso para que o seu output seja mais rápido. No primeiro momento, para a comunicação, e posteriormente para você melhorar isso daí. Porque também, uma comunicação muito quebrada, ainda que ela aconteça, você precisa sempre buscar melhorar. Sempre aumentar esse ciclo. Ok? Aqui eu tive um comentário, Fajardim, on YouTube. For me, it depends. I have a lot of difficulty understanding Indian, Filipino, Arabic, speak English, for example. It's really tough. I used to have an Indian boss, a boss from India. And when he came to the department, introducing himself, he was the new director of the area. He had just arrived from the United States. So he came to the department and guess the scene. He was standing in the middle of the department. Everybody stood from our desks, and we came closer to him for him to speak, like his welcome speech. And he spoke in Indian. Fast, flat, Indian people speak in a flat way. What is a flat way? Muitas vezes, não nativos, especialmente da Índia, eu tive muita experiência. Não sei o filipino, não sei te falar se o filipino ele fala assim também. Não me lembro de ter conversado com o filipino. Mas já conversei com árabe e já conversei com indiano. Tende a falar flat. O que é flat? Até para vocês associarem também. A gente fala assim, fulano está morando num flat. O que é um flat? É tipo um apartamento. Ele significa que ele é plano. Pneu furado, flat tire. O pneu ficou furado, tá? Flat. Entendeu? Então, uma comunicação flat também significa que ela não tem ups and downs. E isso é um outro ponto que eu gosto de trabalhar com o aluno. Porque se você não tem emoção, a nossa comunicação em inglês também não é só uma gramática perfeita. Ela vai também da capacidade de a gente colocar a nossa emoção. Uma hora eu tô mais nervosa, outra hora eu tô mais feliz. Eu quero dar uma boa notícia. Nossa área atingiu o resultado esperado. Uma boa notícia. Então eu tenho uma entonação que eu coloco. E aqui não, o time não atingiu o resultado. Eu preciso dar um recado mais duro aqui. Então eu tenho outro tipo de entonação. Só que às vezes você está se preocupando tanto com a minha gramática está correta, que a sua comunicação sai flat. Eu falo que é a voz do ex. E o indiano, ele chegou no departamento falando e totalmente flat. A gente não sabia se ele estava feliz, se ele estava triste, se ele estava dando uma boa notícia ou se ele estava dando bronca no departamento. E o pessoal olhava para mim naquele dia. Eu lembro que eu dava muita risada, porque eu não estava entendendo nada do que ele estava falando. Isso 20 anos atrás. E eu falava inglês fluente, eu atendi inclusive os fornecedores internacionais. E aí todo mundo olhou para mim, sabendo que eu já dava aula também. Eu trabalhava na empresa e à noite eu dava aula de inglês particular. E aí o pessoal, todo o departamento olhou para mim, tipo, com aquela cara assim, teacher, salva a gente, o que ele tá falando? Eu falei, gente, eu não tô entendendo nada não. Eu falei, eu dou aula de inglês, de indiano, não tenho ideia do que ele tá falando. A boa notícia é que depois a gente se acostuma. Então eu comecei a entender o que ele queria dizer. Você se acostuma com a pessoa com quem você trabalha, você tá ali todo dia, né? Então você acaba entrando, você acaba treinando seu ouvido para isso. No mesmo caso do German, lá, do chefe que é German. Então, esses são os pontos que vocês precisam considerar no momento de montar um plano de estudos para vocês. Tudo isso eu falo nas aulas da Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho, tá? Vocês vão ter isso em mais detalhes. E o Marcelo perguntou por que eu estou falando português. É que eu precisava pontuar uma coisa e ter certeza que todo mundo ia entender isso. Se todo mundo entendesse 100% do que eu falo, aí vocês não precisariam da minha ajuda. A gente faria um grupo só de conversação. Mas, por exemplo, na Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho, eu vou abrir as vagas para o método 8WI, que é um método voltado para te ajudar na comunicação em inglês. Ali eu passo todas essas informações com mais detalhes, essa parte da metodologia, essa questão do speaking, faço tudo isso. E os alunos participantes da Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho têm acesso antecipado em uma condição especial para entrar no próximo grupo agora, de meio de ano, tá? Então, por isso que eu falei um pouquinho de português. People, more questions. I don't know. Luis asked here, is there any difference between studying English with a Brazilian teacher and a native teacher? Both are good, but both can be bad. It depends on the teacher. Why do I say that? Because, for example, and it depends on the teacher and depends on the student. For a total beginner, some people don't agree, but this is my opinion, okay? From my experience. For a total beginner, a good Brazilian teacher will be more helpful than a native teacher. Because a Brazilian teacher has the same background, speaking background as the student. So in this case, it's easier because I know, for example, when I'm teaching a basic student, I know where the student will get stuck because of Portuguese interference. In this case, I think I can help the student faster than just a native speaker talking to the student freely. But for example, for a conversation moment, if you are advanced or at least intermediate student, a native teacher might be good. So in this case, there is no definitive answer, but you have to consider that. Depending on the teacher, depending on the student. But for example, in my team now, I have some teachers. They speak better. They're Brazilians, but they speak English so well, and I'm sure they speak better than native speakers. It depends on the native speaker. What if the native speaker never spoke English formally? Then you have a problem. What if this native speaker speaks English in a poor way, using a lot of slangs, and you don't know that? So it depends on what you want. Only for traveling, only for basic survival, maybe. Okay. Marcelo said, I find it easier to listen and talk to a foreigner than a Native American. It depends, yes. Because I said about that. I think you weren't here. It was in the moment you left. But because a foreigner tends to speak slower than a native speaker. And because of that, we tend to find it easier. And if it's another Brazilian speaking, it's so obvious that a Brazilian speaker you can recognize. But if you're speaking English just for another Brazilian to understand you, you don't need to speak English. Once I said this to a student a long time ago. We were working on his pronunciation development, on his pronunciation awareness, and we have this inside the method, AWI, we have this. And he was speaking English. Think of that. How do you say perguntei? For example, the verb perguntar is ask. Okay? Everybody knows. Perguntar, pedir, ask. How do you say this in the past? Think of the way you write it. A-S-K-E-D. Okay? How do you say that? Do you say asked or do you say asked? One or two. How do you say? A lot of questions here, people. So if you say asked, for example, it's because of the interference from Portuguese. Por quê? Quando a gente lê asked, I asked you, eu te pedi isso, ou te perguntei isso, I asked you, a gente está colocando a nossa referência fonética nessa fala. Em português, se a gente for ler em português, está escrito asked, porque eu estou lendo com os olhos de alguém que foi alfabetizado em português. Só que o nativo vai falar asked. E isso eu coloco dentro do curso. Eu vou te explicar por que é asked, não é asked. Eu lembro que uma vez eu estava dando aula para um aluno que trabalhava numa multinacional também, trabalha até hoje, e ele falava I asked you, e ele ia participar de uma reunião no dia seguinte. Eu falei assim, vamos treinar isso aqui? I asked you, e treinei. Mas, teacher, ninguém fala assim, os outros caras trabalham comigo, todos eles falam I asked you. Eu falei, então, mas os outros caras que trabalham com você são brasileiros. Se você for falar inglês só para outro brasileiro te entender, vocês têm português. Vocês não precisam do inglês para falar. É verdade, teacher. Eu falei, então vai lá e coloca um I asked you. E ele foi. Ele falou que eles iam ter uma reunião, o grupo brasileiro ia ter uma reunião com a empresa, no escritório da Polônia. E pela primeira vez ele falou, então eu vou falar yes. Eu falei, tá bom. Então você chega na reunião, você fala yes. Aí na aula seguinte ele veio me contar, ele falou, teacher, quando eu falei I asked you, o pessoal tudo me olhou aqui, o pessoal no escritório. Isso, sei lá, uns 15 anos atrás, não tinha vídeo, a gente não fazia vídeo, né? Nas empresas você tinha aquele telefone estrela na sala de reunião e eles estavam por esse telefone, falando ali com o escritório da Polônia. E ele falou, I asked you, ele falou que os outros brasileiros olharam para ele e falaram assim, nossa, o que você está falando? Ele falou, não, minha teacher que me ensinou. Então, faz uma diferença tremenda no fato de você falar corretamente, entender que é asked, por causa disso daí, porque isso aí vai também te ajudar a ouvir. Porque se você só fala I asked, você está esperando ouvir I asked. Quando, na verdade, você vai ouvir I asked. E aqui o Marcelo colocou, porque eles usam slangs. Também tem slangs. E vocês também precisam entender como foreigner speakers que vocês vão ter, talvez vocês tenham uma limitação por muito tempo. Vocês podem buscar superar isso daí. Eu estive recentemente uns 3 meses atrás, eu participei de um evento nos Estados Unidos, acompanhando meu marido. Aí eu estava lá no evento da empresa dele, e eu estava conversando com um líder lá da empresa, um diretor da empresa, num desses coquetéis, tinha uns jantares lá, e ele morou no Brasil, americano, nativo, presta atenção, americano nativo, morou no Brasil e ele aprendeu um pouco de português. Isso me interessa, pessoas que trabalham em outros países e aprendem a língua local, e eu coloquei para ele, falei, poxa, você fez um caminho contrário, a maioria das pessoas, né, eu falei, eu tenho muitos alunos que se esforçam para aprender inglês e você se esforçou, ele morou 4 anos, depois um período de mais 2 anos aqui no Brasil. E você se esforçou para aprender português. Ele falou, eu falei assim, se você pudesse conversar com os meus alunos, né, se você fosse, o que você falaria? Ele falou, fala para os seus alunos, primeira coisa, entenderem que nós como falantes, primeiro que o brasileiro fala inglês muito melhor que o americano fala português. Então, nesse caso, ele falou, nunca tive problema de falar inglês com os brasileiros com quem eu trabalhei. Aprendi português, ele falou, porque de fato fica mais confortável muitas vezes, mas isso é exceção, tudo bem. Ele falou, mas eu sei que eu tenho uma limitação. Eu nunca me impediu, nunca me atrapalhou de trabalhar em português. O meu português. Ele falou, mas eu sei que eu não tenho português suficiente para discutir política, para falar de economia. Ele falou assim, eu sei o básico para conseguir trabalhar. Sempre conseguir participar de reuniões e vocabulário básico. Se vocês aqui, e a gente estava num grupo de, tinha alguns outros brasileiros que tinham trabalhado com ele aqui no Brasil, estavam lá, estava numa mesa ali, numa roda, conversando, e ele falou assim, quando vocês estão conversando entre vocês, naturalmente, eu não entendo gíria, não entendo de política em português, não entendo de economia em português, eu não consigo acompanhar a conversa de vocês, quando vocês desinvestam a falar. Ele usou algum outro termo lá, ele falou, mas quando a gente está trabalhando, isso nunca me impediu. E a esposa dele, eu falei, se você entende tão bem, ela falou assim, eu entendo um pouco. Ele falou, porque ela não trabalhou aqui no Brasil, ela acompanhou ele, ela falou, então, o meu português no Brasil servia para eu levar os filhos para a escola, para conversar com a professora, para coisas mais, apesar que as crianças estudaram em escola americana quando moraram aqui, ele falou, servia para eu ir ao shopping, servia para conversar com a pessoa que trabalhava na minha casa, mas eu falo português pior do que ele falou, mas porque era a minha realidade. Então, quando eu falo de vocês, por exemplo, esses get surrounded by English, é justamente nesse sentido de vocês criarem um ambiente propício para vocês vivenciarem o inglês. No caso dela, ela aprendeu menos português do que ele porque ela não passava o dia inteiro conversando português. Provavelmente ela tinha uma comunidade de algumas outras americanas, ela acabava eventualmente tendo amizade mais com americanos do que tendo contato com brasileiros no dia a dia dela. E para coisas pontuais, ela ia ao shopping, ao cabeleireiro, conversava com a moça que trabalhava na casa dela, então tinha um português mais limitado, mas atendeu a necessidade. Quando eu falo, então, que você precisa entender onde você está, e aqui eu estou vendo a pergunta da Kátia, in your course, is it possible to have a test to identify? Sim, se é possível ter um teste para identificar o nível, não só no curso, mas antes do curso, já na semana que vem, na semana do Inglês para o Trabalho, vocês têm esse teste. Então, vocês já podem entrar no curso já sabendo qual é o nível de vocês. Cada nível tem um track diferente, tem uma trilha diferente que vai ser guiada. Por quê? Você entende o ponto que você está. A partir do ponto que você está, tem uma trilha diferenciada. Entende? Qual que é a sua necessidade? Qual que é a sua exposição diária ao inglês? O que está mais urgente para você? Então, tudo isso precisa ser considerado no seu processo. Porque senão seria muito simples para mim, de verdade, seria muito simples para mim pegar aqui, eu tenho uma gramática aqui do meu lado, já dei ela como exemplo, são 99 lições de gramática. Todos os principais pontos de gramática que você precisa aprender. Gravaria uma aula sobre cada um desses temas, pronto. Joga online, login e senha, e tá tudo certo. Mas quando eu falo que você, muitas vezes, o aluno que tem esse perfil corporativo, ele vem de uma necessidade que não é só mais uma aula de inglês, talvez desses pontos de gramática, talvez 6 desses sejam os mais urgentes para você. Então, a gente precisa identificar isso daqui e guiar dentro desse caminho, com a prática adequada, com o direcionamento adequado, com o feedback adequado. É muito mais produtivo do que simplesmente jogar num curso com 100 aulas gravadas. Vai fazendo aí. Você não precisa de mais disso. Até porque se fosse para você fazer 100 aulas, eu te dou a indicação dessa gramática, você compra aí online, vai chegar na sua casa, você faz uma aula por dia. Daqui 100 dias, você acha que isso vai resolver a sua situação de insegurança para falar inglês? A Kátia colocou aqui, what's the best way to improve listening? Ahá, improving pronunciation. Aqui é outro ponto que eu vou falar na Semana do Inglês para o Trabalho, tá? O problema do seu listening, o problema de listening. Eu sempre falo para aluno, a não ser que você de fato tenha problema auditivo, que é uma condição médica, você não tem problema de listening. Você tem problema de pronunciation. E eu explico tudo isso nas aulas da semana. Então, começa na pronúncia. Tá? Deixa eu ver se tem mais pergunta aqui. Bernardo, fantastic thing. Very good. O Marco colocou... I'm late today. Marco, you can watch it. It's going to be recorded for a few days. The one that have better English. Yes. Okay. Who else? Of course. Makes sense. Exactly. I don't know what... An English teacher, please. Yes, I'm here. Back to English. You know, I know you prefer me to speak English, but sometimes I really need. I had a terrible experience with Indian people. Me too. Marco said, with no natives, I had good experience with Belgians and Germans. I had good experience with people from other nationalities too. But yeah, I think it depends more on the person, on the personality, on how helpful or how willing to help you they are. But it's good. Hard to understand sometimes, it really is. Fabi, for example, how do you do with a student have a good knowledge in grammar and vocabulary and is weak in speaking? This is part of the method. This is part of the method, Marco. Don't worry, because there is a track for that. Let me see. 2, 2, 1, 2. Okay, who else? Who put here asked? Marco put asked, yes, with T sound, okay? Teacher, I'm thinking in doing Cambly. Do you know? Because I think I just need to improve my conversation and understand all accents because the most important in my job is that. I don't know, Ju. I know it's a conversation platform, but I really can't have my opinion on that because I have never used it. But one consideration that I have, and I don't know if this is the way that it works. I know some platforms for English speaking, for conversation practice, they do that way. I myself, I don't like free conversation with different teachers every class. Think with me. When you have um, when you have when you go to a doctor, imagine every time you feel like a headache, you go to the doctor, to the emergency room. Okay, so you go there. There is a doctor there. He gives you a medicine, but he doesn't know you. You're just complaining about like some headache, and he gives you some medicine for that. Okay. 1 week later, you have another headache, and you go to the ER again, and you have another doctor. He doesn't know you. He gives you another. He gives you another medicine, and then it keeps going and going and going. One day you are going to tell me that okay, you can say okay, I need to go to a specialist who knows me, who gets to know me, so then he understands why. Because what's the reason that I have headaches every Sunday afternoon, for example, and then he's going to investigate. The doctor will investigate. The same happens to your English. If every time you are having a total different conversation teacher, this teacher won't know you. He will only point things like, okay, Ju, your conversation today, you made this mistake, you made that mistake, but there won't be a real plan for you to move forward. I think that for some people it might work, depending on the needs, but for many people will be like just free conversation without a real guidance directed to the objectives. From what I know, I don't know if this Cambly is like that, but that's what I know from other platforms that I know. Okay. What else, people? May I ask a question? Jose, yes, of course, you can ask a question. Kids aged 9 and 11. Okay, this is not the topic of the class here, but age 9 and 11. My kids are, one is 12 and the other will be 9 soon. It depends on them, but they are usually kinesthetic. Okay. I don't like translation methods, not only for kids, but for anybody. Okay, I don't like translation methods. And we have online programs for kids too. I don't talk a lot about them here, but if you want further information for your kids, just call me in the direct and I will ask someone from the team, pedagogical team for kids to talk to you and explain the way we work. My kids have these classes and they Mark, you were explaining about it. You read my mind. Very good. Catiane put here, look, how curious. Moro na Inglaterra há 20 anos e não consigo falar inglês. Eu entendo bastante, mas não sai uma palavra. Do you work in English? Do you work in Portuguese? Maybe. Not me. I know a person who stayed 3 years in England, in Oxford, and came back to Brazil without knowing any word. But she lived and worked with only Brazilian people. So she was just living in Brazil, but in the UK, you know. I don't know if this is your case, but she doesn't speak in English, but I know that it was because of that. I don't know if this is your case, but if you really want to overcome that, just call me in the direct that I would love to understand your situation, okay? I think it's it, people. I think I covered everything. Do you have any further questions, people? We are here for 1 hour. I was supposed to stay here with 30 minutes with you. It was fun here. Tomorrow we'll be back with another topic, which will be, why do you get stuck when you need to speak English at work, at meetings, in these situations? Why do you get stuck? There is a reason because of that. Some of them I talked to today, but we'll have a closing on this topic tomorrow, 6:30, same time. Don't be late because I have classes, conversation classes with our students at 7 p.m. with the students that have already started the program. So I won't be able to stay 1 hour with you tomorrow, only 30 minutes. Don't be late, 6:30 p.m. I'll be back again tomorrow, okay? Bye, everyone. See you.